Hey guys, welcome to another replay done by Diggity. In the upper left hand corner we have the pink protoss, because I cannot pronounce that name. So pink protoss from here on out. I will refer to JookToJung, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right either. I'll just refer to him as the blue zerg in the bottom right just to keep things equitable. And this is in response to a couple of the viewers saying, hey, why don't you do some of the Korean stuff? You do a lot of US stuff, which is true. I tend to focus on the US community a lot. So why don't you go ahead and, branch out a little bit, instead of foreigners, do some of the Korean stuff proper. I'm not familiar with either of these players, to be completely honest. And if anyone can translate their name or what they're saying here on screen, please do in the comments. Also, apologies from the last match. I believe I was calling, well, I don't believe, I know, I was calling Brat okay instead of Braytalk, like his name is properly pronounced. And that actually means bro in Ukrainian. I love tidbits of information like that, and I love that I can cast and find stuff like this out. It's just, I don't know, that gives me warm fuzzy feelings. I'm one of those guys who loves Mythbusters and shows like that, so I know that like later in life, if I'm ever being shot by an AK-47 for some reason, I can dive into a deep pool of water. They won't be able to shoot me, and go watch Mythbusters if you don't know. Anyway, this is on Jungle Basin, which it's interesting because you have a big, long macro game to start because you just have huge distances, so early pressure is very difficult to execute. But then to follow that up, the next expansion over is in extremely exposed locations. You have this dead center, really close to the middle of the map, and you can see how close it is to the opposing opponent's third and kind of the access points that come across. You also have the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock position, which are, a little bit more defensible, but up wide ramps. Usually you'll see players kind of take those expansions just to provide, just because it's a little bit more defensible, but not a lot of resources on a very long map. And in the meantime, looks like our pink protoss is just wandering outside that natural expansion, but it looks like the blue zerg has just decided to go, I just still call them blue and pink, has just decided to go spawning pool first. And also to comment to a couple of people that are saying, oh, are you ever going to do StarCraft again? Yes, very likely, but in the meantime, if you want to get the original StarCraft fix, check out Moletrap, because he's been producing a lot of that recently. Early expansion, wow, very creative play. Early expansion forge first with gateway to follow, and I like this play on this map in particular, on Jungle Basin, because usually the standard Zerg response to this is to try to go for a Baneling bust to really hurt the cannon. But first of all, there's this nice ramp to help defend against that sort of play, and additionally, it's such a wide and long map that Banelings have just a huge distance to go to really get anything accomplished. I just don't see it being effective. So I really love this play, the cannon first fast expansion, and I do believe that the length of this map makes this build more viable, and definitely a large economic lead to start, because again, blue zerg has gone for spawning pool first rather than expansion first, gotten out a couple zerglings, and I'll try to stay on top of keeping that production tab up, just a couple of zerglings out, and this almost reminds me of fast expansion play. But again, I don't know that this would be viable on other maps that are even other maps that are a little bit early game macro oriented, like Metalopolis, although there's more resources to kind of follow that up. And wow, frame rates are really going wild on this, perhaps because I'm not sure what the cause of that is. It's been fantastic every place else. So natural expansion now saturated, big economic lead right off the bat here for pink, because he's going to be able to saturate that rather quickly. He's producing more or less probes at twice the rate. He has all that additional chrono boost, so you're going to see that harvester count jump. He's going to take a pretty sizable economic lead in about a minute or two. And in the meantime, he's gotten the scouting information out, and really it's kind of up to Mr. Blue to suit and really just stand again. It looks like we had a gas steal. I like that. That's a nice thing to do to kind of follow this up. Unfortunately, I don't know how effective it's going to be, because there's still 2 gas open that can be stolen otherwise. But usually the way you'll see Zerg respond to this is again with the bust, or they'll try to say, okay, well, I'll just go take another expansion. But all the other expansions are so far out across here, I don't know really what blue can do, and it looks like he's managed to sneak up and get that Zergling absolutely crushed in the meantime. And persistent scouting, a Zealot actually managed to wander. I missed that on screen. Perhaps pink just didn't stand up enough, but that Zealot able to wander all the way down here to kind of get a look. But in the meantime, blue's not really showing any indication of doing anything at this stage. He's just continuing to creep up, continuing to just pump drones, it looks like, off one base. He does have a couple overlords sitting nearby the bases on corners, perhaps to do a little bit of late game or little mid game scouting. Persistent scouting, I love this from pink. And it looks like the Zerglings are going to intercept, and I do like what Blue's doing, keeping a couple Zerglings out in the field, keeping a good eye. And it looks like we're seeing dual evolution chambers, but still no push towards layer tech. So gonna try to win it with perhaps, I don't know, a Zergling bust, some sort of infantry follow-up. Because usually when you see the evolution chambers, particularly this early, it's okay, I'm going to try to stay ahead in upgrades and get it done with upgrades. And looks like so definitely weapons 1. We'll see if we see Carapace 1. Sorry, missile attack 1 and Carapace 1. So we are going to see probably move more towards Hydralisk, perhaps big mid-game Hydralisk, perhaps big mid-game Roach to follow this up. But it's going to be really difficult, first of all. And Stargates! Wow! Stargates to follow this up, which is really going to pay off because, again, a lot of access to gas, can really use a lot of mobility on this really long map. So, and again, these 9 o'clock, you can just send a couple Phoenixes or some Void Rays. I'd really love to see Void Rays just kind of camping these outer expansions, taking them out rather rapidly. It's just such a wide map. It's going to be very difficult, even with a Hydralisk follow-up, for Blue to really cover the entire map and defend against that. So I love that choice of tech. It looks like we're actually seeing Phoenixes first. But nevertheless, yeah, it's going to be a lot of territory. It's going to be a lot of difficulty in covering all that territory. And yeah, looks like actually big investment in Phoenixes. Probably going to be able to take these overlords out. But again, I love the fact it's just really difficult to cover and hold all of the territory. Looks like the weapons are upgrading, and finally that upgrade to layer just dedicating a little bit more to drones. And actually, despite the fact that Pink had 2 bases early, looks like Blue's solution to that was, okay, forget that. I'm not building any sort of tech whatsoever. I'm not building any sort of ground army whatsoever. I am just going to pump nothing but drones and spawn larvae to try to keep up economically off the equivalent 2 bases, even though I was behind a little bit more. And I do like that response to essentially what Pink was doing. But now you see that Phoenix force out, and this is really one of those difficult situations, I think, for Blue, because once he sees these Phoenixes, I'm almost curious how he's going to respond, because again, Hydralisk's out in the field, he won't be able to, even though he might have, and it looks like Roach Warren actually, even though he might have a 3rd hatchery inside the base. Interesting behavior. And again, I almost wonder about this, just perhaps to get more larvae out, and that this kind of play confuses me a little bit. And it almost feels like original StarCraft sort of play, and I don't understand the logic behind it, and I mentioned that in the machine game as well, because really if you're just looking for larvae, it's a much better investment just to go queens, because then you have additional spawn larvae. They don't, it doesn't cost as many minerals as a hatchery. Additionally, if you're going to put down a hatchery someplace else, you can just plant it at another expansion and just rely on queens. And we do have the Hydralisk den here in the back now, as well as the Baneling nest upgraded. Here come the Phoenixes though, and not a lot of anti-air here for Blue to really cope with this, and is very likely going to have his queen picked off as soon as he is lifted off here. So yeah, there's that queen. Let's see if he just get it. Yeah, immediately lifted off. Going to lose that very, very quickly. Might have some Hydralisks, but it's going to be too late. Big economic damage there, and now drones just getting lifted off and picked off by Phoenixes everywhere. Does see the Hydralisk den, does see the Roach Warren, does see some additional upgrades, and actually just micromanaging against these Hydralisks. Wow, too many Phoenixes. Beautiful micro, just devastating. This is what you can do when you just have really high level micro and you're facing just not enough basically ground forces otherwise. The Phoenix is now returning home, and now I feel like Blue is just stymied, just in an absolutely terrible position. Has creeped forward a little bit, looks like he's trying to move towards this middle expansion here, but really I don't feel like he's in any sort of position to take it. He will have the Hydralisks out momentarily. Looks like we see a robotics bay to kind of follow this up with actually dual robotics facilities to get a lot of Colossi out to help deal against those Hydralisks. In the meantime, just guarding some of these outer expansions, picking off any sort of drones that move out in the field, now diving in that natural expansion. Right there, Blue able to take out 2 Phoenixes and whittle that army down to provide a little bit more breathing room. Doing a good job in defensive position off 2 bases, but keep in mind he's got to get it done off 2 bases now, really, which is going to require, I mean, you've got the hatchery inside the base, which is really going to require some sort of front door break or bust with just some sort of, I'm not even sure what unit composition he's going to want to go with here. It looks like he's going Hydralisk and a couple Zerglings at this stage, mostly building the Hydralisk to defend against these Phoenixes, and now starting to move out, and you can see the Phoenix just camping, waiting for a drone. It looks like the drone is actually headed out to the 9 o'clock position instead, and keep in mind that's the area facing with that small ramp. Let's see if he actually puts some roaches and a couple other troops up there. Also opening up that destructible rocks to provide a little bit mobility along that back edge. And Pink in the meantime has been running for quite a while. He's been more or less just sitting inside of his base, macroing up, getting a couple troops out, but really doesn't have much, doesn't have as large an army as I was expecting. It looks like he's a little bit over mineral costed and hasn't been really filling that in with zerglings. And once again, the Hydralisk out of position. That queen gonna get taken out along with a lot of the drones. Those Hydralisks either gonna, even if they spawn on the point, I think these Phoenixes have enough energy to take out small forces. And finally, a spore colony being dropped, and Hydralisk actually running away. They're like, no, get us the hell out of here. Spore colonies being dropped everywhere in the main to provide some anti-air defense, at least in that regard. That 9 o'clock position is going to get up, but in the meantime, you've got a big attack of a big attack, I guess that's what you call a group of Hydralisks these days. You have a large force of Hydralisks sitting out towards the main, and here comes, it looks like a sizable attack. I wonder if the Overlord drop has been upgraded, and I believe it has. This looks like a drop to me. A bunch of Overlords moving into position, a lot of Zerglings at the front, and this natural expansion fairly exposed. You do have a couple cannons there, but that is probably not enough to stop all of these troops. I like this decision, and nothing but Phoenixes to try to go and cope with this. No ground army whatsoever. Couple stock, well, a little bit of a ground army, but not a lot, and the rest going to be dropped in. So wow, this is a huge strike on blue. So even though Pink was able to take out a lot of those drones, take out queens, he's going to end up losing a lot of his infrastructure. But 4 Colossi there to deal with a lot of these Zerglings getting taken out very, very rapidly, though. Now trying to go up, take out as many Overlords and lift up. Nice micro, picking up a lot of those Hydralisks, and it looks like the Hydralisks are have just whittled away that Phoenix army, trying to lift off as many as possible, and very nicely dealing with that attack. But at the same time, a lot of damage. Well, actually not as much damage as I would expect to be, but 2 Colossi taken out, as well as the pylon deactivated a couple cannons and really keeping Pink honest. But now blue, if he can saturate this base, it looks like he's just continuing to produce Hydralisks, and these Phoenixes trying to rush up and hunt down these Overlords, not quite able to in open field. As far as mineral putting in, again, we're seeing a huge harvester lead, it looks like, just because of the way that expansion was emptied, first of all, and additional play to kind of follow that up. But it looks, this is kind of an interesting army combination. Finally, Pink moving out to take his third. Really nice micro, but really playing very un-macro-like game, which I'm not very accustomed to, honestly, at any level of play. They're really just kind of playing it light on the, well, I guess they're just kind of storing up their resources. Looks like Pink now finding that 9 o'clock location. Let's see if that causes him to move on. Losing a couple additional Phoenixes here and there, and more robotics facilities, more gateways. The Colossi now gathering up. 4 Colossi, and Colossi Phoenix, actually, the way Pink has been using them, could be a very effective army, as long as he can keep up with those lifts on those Hydralisks, and just showing some beautiful micro thus far in that regard. And this is going to be a sneeze commentary in a second. Sorry about that. Still 4 Phoenixes out in the air, very threatening. Can't really do any diving towards the main, though, because we do have pretty decent spore crawler coverage. Looks like there's also some spores here that can be remaneuvered at the main, or sorry, at the natural expansion. So diving and going to immediately pull up, but are going to be able to pick off a queen. I'm not sure what the queen was doing at the outer position, but it looks like the Hydros are going to be able to run up and support, take out 2 more Phoenixes. So now the Phoenix army has more or less been stymied. 3 o'clock base up, and that is a lot of Colossus. That's 5 Colossus, and that is a lot of damage output. But look at this. You just got the creep line going all the way up the left of the map, and that is creating just a gigantic lane for these Hydralisks, for these troops to just run up. Still a large harvester lead for Pink, but he's not really utilizing it because he doesn't have additional bases right here. You can see that his main's almost mined out, his natural secondary is very thin, and he's not yet mining at his third. Therefore, the production lead is going in Blue's favor, despite the fact he has significantly fewer amount of drones to follow this up. So another drop looks like it's loading up, and these Hydralisks actually taking the slow route. Let's see if they back up and decide to go along that left hand, and a couple more Phoenixes wandering up, but getting annihilated. Not really seeing it. I see Banelings being loaded up into, wow, some Banelings being loaded up, and now it's kind of the opposite situation, where the Phoenixes were given a lot of mobility to Pink and a lot of harassment, a lot of opportunity to try to deny that third base. Now the Zerg Overlord drop is doing the exact same thing for Blue, where this is a lot of territory to cover. The Phoenixes have more or less been taken out. These Colossi are big, powerful attack units, but at the same time, they're not very mobile. But the question is will he be able to engage this attack army? Period. That's a lot. Wow, this is going to be a big fight. A lot of Hydralisks, a lot of Zealots, though, and a lot of Colossi, but those Banelings dropping right on top of the Colossi might be able to take them out really rapidly. 1 Colossus down, 2 Colossus down, just a Banelings. Wow, and just unbelievable damage there. And that was really excellent play from Blue, coming from what I would consider a behind position, and now just has absolute control because there's nothing left Okay, it looks like 2 Colossi left, but nothing left otherwise. And again, I feel like Pink just kind of squandered the economic advantage and a little bit of chatter. Another drop, and I'm not sure if it's more Banelings or what, but it looks like it's just roaches. And I love the play of that drop as well to nullify the Colossi's ability to use the other troops to buffer against them, and now dropping all over the third base, which I think is the only producing base now for Pink. So it looks like Pink is going to end up getting taken out, despite what I would say a big economic lead early, but Blue playing very well to even things up. And there, yeah, I think that's the indication for the GG here, which, again, I don't read Korean, so I don't know if it'll be GG or not, but that Colossus is getting very quickly taken out. This third base is going to be devastated, and that should be it. And it looks like there's still some mining going on back here, but it doesn't matter. So very interesting game, very interesting play from both players, and that's a little bit of flavor from the Korean side. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Peace.